I don't think that Rory's necessarily lost his form as he's lost his focus. You can't play if you can't find the focus to play at your best. And I'm not aiming at anything, and I don't really have any long-term goals anymore. But I've never seen him play this poorly. I've never seen him look this disorganized. He's never had a tournament where he played as bad as he did in the Canadian Open.
Brandel Chamblee just went off again, this time saying Rory McIlroy's leadership is corrosive to golf. He actually used that word, corrosive, like acid eating through metal. And this isn't some random rant. Chamblee has been building this case for over 10 years. He doesn't think Rory can't play. He thinks Rory is wasting the greatest talent golf has ever seen. And now in January 2026, the whole thing exploded. Because Rory defended Brooks Koepka coming back from LIV Golf without any punishment. And Chamblee lost it. If you're loving this breakdown so far, do me a favor and hit that hype button right below the video. It actually helps push this story out to more golf fans like you. Plus, it tells me you want more deep dives like this. Alright, let's get into it. So here's what happened. Brooks Koepka left the PGA Tour 4 years ago to join LIV Golf, the Saudi-backed league that tried to blow up professional golf. Koepka got $100 million guaranteed. He gave LIV credibility. He made other players think it was okay to leave. And he hurt the tour. But then in January 2026, Koepka decided he wanted to come back, said he needed to prioritize his family, and Rory McIlroy said he had no problem with it, said Koepka and the other LIV guys already paid their consequences, that their damaged reputations were punishment enough. Rory said letting them back would be good for everyone, that it should happen as soon as possible. Brandel Chamblee heard that and exploded. He said if they allow Brooks to come back after leaving and causing disruption to the game, the message will be clear, that the rules only apply to the expendable and not to the exceptional. And that's corrosive. That word matters. Corrosive means something that eats away slowly, that destroys structure from the inside. Chamblee is saying Rory's forgiveness isn't just wrong. It's poison. It will kill the tour. See, Chamblee believes in something called meritocracy. That means the best players win because they earn it, and everyone follows the same rules. It doesn't matter if you're ranked 1st or ranked 125th. The rules are the rules. But Rory is saying the rules don't apply to stars like Koepka, that if you're good enough, you can break your contract, take $100 million, damage the tour, and then come back when you feel like it, and nothing happens to you. Chamblee says that's not a sport anymore, that's a showcase. That's just putting the best players on TV no matter what they did. And he argues that institutions only work if commitment has meaning, if contracts have meaning, if defection has consequences, and if loyalty is not optional for elite players. By forgiving Koepka, Rory is telling every player who stayed loyal that they were stupid, that they could have taken the money and come back anyway. Think about it. If you were a PGA Tour player who turned down $50 million to stay loyal, how would you feel right now? You'd feel like a fool, because Koepka took the money and gets to come back with no penalty. Chamblee says this destroys trust. It makes loyalty worthless, and it invites future disruption, because now every player knows they can leave, cash in, and return whenever they want. Chamblee also says Koepka wasn't just some random player. He was a key legitimizer of LIV. He gave the league credibility, and without Koepka and guys like him, LIV never would have worked. So his guilt is bigger. His punishment should be bigger. But Rory wants to welcome him back with open arms. Chamblee sees that as a betrayal, not just of the tour but of golf itself. And this isn't the only way Chamblee thinks Rory is failing. He also thinks Rory's swing is broken, not because Rory doesn't have talent, but because Rory is too smart for his own good. Chamblee has been saying this for years. He says Rory does too many deep dives on YouTube, that Rory gets cluttered up with curiosity, that when Chamblee watches Rory play, it looks like he has either too many swing thoughts in his mind or too many voices in his head. And that's the only logical conclusion he can draw. This is huge. Chamblee isn't saying Rory lacks skill. He's saying Rory is overthinking, that he's taking a natural genius-level golf swing and destroying it with science, with data, with YouTube videos about biomechanics and swing planes and ground force and all that stuff. Chamblee believes greatness requires a quiet mind, a singular focus, but Rory's mind is noisy, cluttered, full of conflicting ideas. Chamblee points to the old greats. Jack Nicklaus worked with one coach his whole career, Jack Grout. Ben Hogan dug answers out of the dirt alone. They didn't watch instructional videos. They didn't have 10 coaches. They trusted their instincts. But Rory has worked with Michael Bannon, Pete Cowan, Butch Harmon, and who knows who else. He's constantly searching for answers in new places, and Chamblee says that's killing him. Here's how it works. When you're standing over a critical shot, like the 72nd hole of a major championship, your subconscious mind has to take over. You can't think. You have to feel. But if your conscious mind is crowded with YouTube theory, positions, angles, pressure plates, all that stuff, your athletic instinct gets stifled. You hesitate, you steer the ball, and you fail under pressure. Chamblee says this is exactly why Rory went 10 years without winning a major before 2025. And Chamblee doesn't just complain in general terms, he gets specific. He uses video analysis to show Rory's flaws. One big problem is the disconnect between Rory's hips and his arms. Chamblee says there is no connection between his hips and his arms. It's all arm action. In the classic golf swing, the hips and shoulders turn together. They move in rhythm, but in the modern swing, players fire their hips violently while their hands stay high. This creates massive torque, massive power, but it requires perfect timing. If the timing is off by even a millisecond, the club face can't square up without manipulation. And that's why Rory can win by 8 shots one week and miss the cut the next. His swing is high maintenance. When it's on, it's unstoppable. When it's off, it's a disaster. Another issue is shallowing the shaft. This is a modern obsession. As the player transitions from backswing to downswing, they drop the club head behind them to attack from the inside. YouTube instructors love this move, but Chamblee hates it. He says it's unnatural, that it leads to a stuck position where the player has to flip their hands to save the shot. He believes in the classic direct route. The hands drop and the body turns. No artificial shallowing loop. And he claims this shallowing move is why Rory struggles with wedge distance control and iron accuracy. Rory hits the ball massive distances, but his strokes gained approach stats often lag behind his driving, because the shallowing move is harder to control with shorter clubs. Then there's early extension. Modern players, including Rory, thrust their hips toward the ball at impact. They're trying to jump instead of rotate. They're using ground reaction forces, but Chamblee says this causes a loss of spine angle. Video shows Rory's right foot lifting early and his pelvis moving toward the ball. When that happens, the player has to rely on hand-eye coordination to square the face. And Chamblee noted that not even Rory had the hand-eye to hit more than 53% of his fairways. That's not good enough to dominate. So let's recap the technical stuff. The classic swing that Chamblee loves uses unison of hips and shoulders, a direct path to the ball, rotary leg action based on pivot, and an artistic reactionary mental state. The modern swing that Rory uses has violent hip firing and separation, an artificial shallowing loop, vertical jump-based leg action, and a scientific position-based mental state. Chamblee says the classic swing is consistent, the modern swing is cluttered, and the cluttered mind leads to pressure failures. The ultimate proof of these flaws shows up in Rory's scoring. Chamblee points out that Rory consistently underperforms in his iron play, and that is the most important statistic. The guys who win US Opens finish first or second in strokes, gained approach. Rory dominates off the tee, but his approach shots are pedestrian compared to guys like Scottie Scheffler or Brooks Koepka. Why? Because the violent high-speed shallowing motion is excellent for hitting a driver 320 yards, but it's terrible for the delicate distance control required to hit a wedge 118 yards. Because Rory's hips and arms are disconnected, he has to rely on his hands to square the face at the last millisecond. With a driver, a slight miss is still 300 yards and in the rough. With a wedge, a slight miss is 30 feet from the pin, and that puts immense pressure on his putting. Chamblee also loves using stats to expose what he calls backdoor finishes. While many pundits praise Rory's consistency and top 10 finishes, Chamblee views these stats as deceptive. He says Rory has a pattern: shoot +2 on Thursday and fall out of contention, then play freely and shoot -5 on Saturday and Sunday when the pressure is off. Finish tied for 5th. The public thinks Rory is close, but Chamblee argues he was never actually in the tournament. He compares this to Tiger Woods, who would shoot -3 on Thursday to seize control of the narrative immediately. And the stats back Chamblee up. Rory shot 71, 72, 73, 76, 75, and 73 in his first rounds at the Masters over 6 straight years during his drought. Chamblee says that's mostly mental. Rory is fragile at the start of tournaments. He puts too much pressure on himself to end the drought, and that leads to a stiff defensive opening round. Then when he's out of it, he relaxes and plays great, but it's too late. Here's the smoking gun stat. Rory's scoring average is 70.4 when he's been in the top 5 going into the weekend at major championships, but his scoring average in general is 69. So he's 1.5 shots, roughly speaking, worse when in contention. Think about that. Most great champions like Woods and Nicklaus saw their scoring average improve or stay steady when in contention due to focus. Rory's gets worse. Chamblee attributes this to the cluttered mind and the technical flaws. Under pressure, the high-maintenance swing breaks down. To make it even worse, Chamblee loves comparing Rory to Scottie Scheffler. During coverage of the 2025 PGA Championship, even after Scheffler was arrested in a bizarre traffic incident, Chamblee declared Scheffler the overwhelming favorite. He said if Scheffler didn't get run over by a water buffalo from his car to the golf shop, he didn't know how they were going to stop him. When another analyst pushed back, Chamblee doubled down. He compared Scheffler's tempo and consistency to Jack Nicklaus. The implication is stark. Scheffler has the classic traits of rhythm and mental clarity that Rory lacks. While Rory battles his swing and his mind with YouTube deep dives, Scheffler simply plays golf. This comparison shows that Rory's struggles are not inevitable. They're the result of poor choices in technique and mindset, but the technical stuff is only part of the problem. Chamblee also thinks Rory lacks the killer instinct. He calls it the nice guy trap. Chamblee says Rory is at a point in his life where he wants to enjoy his life. He wants to drink some nice wine. He wants to take trips with his buddies. He's got his fingers in a lot of pies in the business world. And that's a problem, because modern golf at the elite level requires pathological obsession. Chamblee referenced Leonardo da Vinci painting angels. He says Rory was put on this earth to play golf. By engaging in TGL, the tech league, merger negotiations, and investment firms, Rory is spending spiritual energy that should be reserved for the back nine at Augusta. Chamblee even has a theory he calls the Grand Marshal theory. He says at times Rory looks like he's at tournaments to be the Grand Marshal, shaking hands, being the ambassador, being the leader, not the competitor. And yes, Rory has had to carry a huge burden. He's been the voice of the PGA Tour during the LIV war. Rory and Tiger are arguably the most popular players in the world. So when the tour needed a spokesman, Rory stepped up. Chamblee actually defended Rory on this. He said it was unfair to put that weight on him. But he also says Rory voluntarily took on that burden, and it cost him majors. By being in boardrooms when he should have been on the range, Rory made a strategic error in career management. Golf rewards obsession, not balance. Now here's where it gets complicated. Rory won the 2025 Masters. He completed the career Grand Slam. So how does Chamblee's decade of criticism hold up? Well, Chamblee didn't back down. After the win, he said Rory is a once-in-a-generation golfer. So he wasn't going to sit there and say, Rory blew himself out of the golf tournament. When Rory bounced back from a bad start on Friday at the 2025 Masters, Chamblee called it the most important round of his career. He praised Rory for playing with artistry, for decluttering his mind, for trusting his instincts. But here's the key. Less than a year later, in January 2026, Chamblee's criticism returned. Even as a Grand Slam champion, Chamblee attacked Rory's LIV stance. This proves that Chamblee's issues with Rory are principled, not performance-based. Winning majors does not immunize a player from Chamblee's institutional critique. Rory can be the best player in the world, and Chamblee admitted he was in 2095, and still be wrong and corrosive regarding the governance of the sport. So let's put it all together. Chamblee's case against Rory has three pillars. First, the intellectual failure. Rory is too smart for his own good. He intellectualized a feeling-based motion. The evidence is the YouTube comments, the constant coaching changes, the disconnect in the swing. The verdict is that Rory traded the highest ceiling in golf history for a high-floor, high-consistency scientific game that fails under extreme pressure. Second, the moral failure. Rory is too forgiving and lacks the institutional memory to protect the tour. The evidence is the good for everyone comment regarding Koepka and the paid their consequences remark. The verdict is that Rory's softness on defectors threatens to destroy the meritocratic ecosystem of professional golf, making him a corrosive political influence. Third, the competitive failure. Rory lacks the killer instinct to bury opponents early. The evidence is the first-round scoring averages, the Grand Marshal demeanor, the acceptance of backdoor top tens. The verdict is that Rory is too comfortable. He's a nice guy in a sport that rewards sociopathic focus. But here's the thing. Chamblee's criticism comes from love, not hate. He often says Rory was put on this earth to play golf like Leonardo da Vinci was put on this earth, to paint angels. He doesn't critique average players with such ferocity because he doesn't expect greatness from them. He critiques Rory because he views Rory as the custodian of the game's talent. When Chamblee tears into Rory, he's not saying Rory is bad. He's saying Rory is not the undisputed greatest player of all time. And he could be. Rory isn't the GOAT because he listened to YouTube instructors. He isn't the GOAT because he gets distracted by business. He isn't the GOAT because he is too nice to his enemies. In Chamblee's eyes, Rory McIlroy is a Ferrari being driven like a sedan. The criticism is the sound of the mechanic screaming at the driver to step on the gas. And maybe that's what makes this whole thing so fascinating. It's not really about hate. It's about potential. It's about what could have been, and what still might be if Rory ever truly listens. Because at the end of the day, golf is a game that demands everything. Your focus, your discipline, your ruthlessness. And Chamblee believes Rory has all the talent in the world. He just needs to stop being so damn nice about it.